Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a craftier person after watching this video. Boss wants me to work my ass off. I sidestep and nope out of there. First of all, I'm sorry for my grammar mistakes. English is the fourth language I've learned and I'm using a phone. Also, as this happens in a workplace run by the military, I'll try to change terms so it's more similar to a normal company. I thought this was for pro revenge, but giving it some thought, it's probably more adequate to this sub. This is my first post, so any advice is appreciated. Now that this story is just coming to an end, I want to take it off my chest and share it with y'all. I'll start with some context. Please bear with it since I think it's needed to get all the gist. I was born in another country than the one I'm living in now, and where the story starts. My parents divorced when I was very young, and it was my mum who raised me alone without my father's support. Neither economical nor parental, since I didn't have any contact with him and after 20 plus years, and that time was brief regarding an inheritance heading my way from my grandpa. Though that's another story. I grew up as an introvert, but I had many good friends around in my childhood, and during some time I was problematic for my mum. I played too much games and neglected my studies, something that drove her mad for quite a few years when I was a teen. After wasting many years and some big issues, I made a big decision. I'll join the military, and since then my bond with my mother improved a lot. You will see why this is important as she plays a big role in this story. I joined the military as a young soldier in a country where military service is not mandatory. I chose the Air Force, and after some exams and training, I arrived at my new unit as a paratrooper and aircraft mechanic. I loved my work. I was able to travel my country and the world, learn many things and get to know the best friends I've ever had, and day-to-day life was fun, and even when it was hard, I had the best people around to laugh even when you shouldn't be able to because of the circumstances. I don't want to get too deep in what my work was with the unit, but I'll say that I had a confidentiality clearance and worked during maintenance, deployments and escort jobs. Now with the story. It's hard to explain the chain of command in my unit, but I'll try my best. We were a small team. There was me, 3 co-workers, a supervisor that also had other tasks, and the manager. In my work environment, usually I would report to my supervisor, a low-ranking officer, that we'll call Brian, and he would report to Mike, a high-ranking officer, that commanded my section who's the manager of that place and also one of the initial creators of this department. This department was, figuratively, Mike's baby. There is also another department that we worked on a daily basis with, as they also did maintenance but on electronics and we would share the same buildings, offices, cars, etc. This department would also respond to Mike and was at his direct command. Now, with the rest of the people involved in the story, Brian was direct, really good at his work and strict. The personification of army middle-aged man. The only flaw he would have is that the things had to be done his way, being for good or for worst, and that would lead sometimes to a lot of unnecessary workload that didn't make any sense and ultimately had to be redone afterwards. Brian ran that place smoothly and was the backbone of all that had to be done since we were mostly young people that would run like headless chickens without him. It did happen when he wasn't there. He knew a lot of things that none of us did, and if he didn't, he knew who to ask. After I arrived, he took me under his wing and my work ethic has took form thanks to having him as an example. I had and still have a good relationship with almost all of my co-workers back then. Spoiler, I'm not there anymore. Some of us really get along, and we would go every weekend to drink and we would have lunch, dinner, coffee, and do trips sometimes. Going through hard times together did create strong bonds. For this story, I will name only 2 people, David and Eric. David was a simple guy. I didn't have much of a relationship with him since we didn't click, and he was a higher rank than me. He sometimes pushed his work on others, but he's an okay guy, not unpleasant to work with. Sometimes he credited others' work as his when reporting to another boss, but here we don't really care much about that, and no one gave a second thought about his wording when reporting for something done, as we don't lose or win anything by saying so. Eric is one of my buddies. I can't count how many times I slept on his couch and we have a blast together. He's important in the story because he's the one that uncovers a scary truth happening on my back in the future. Now into the real thing. Sorry for the long background. It was Friday after work. I took a 2-hour train ride to go home and check on my mum and my grandma, just for a day, since the next day on Saturday a friend is doing dinner at her home and then we're going to some nightclubs. I spend the day with her but she's a little sick, so we don't do much. I've been going back home almost every week and having a great time with my mum for the last few years. The next day goes as planned, and Sunday I'm hanging out with a girl I met the night before, a friend of a friend that was invited to the dinner. Then I get a call from a voice I don't recognise, something about my mum being sick and that I had to go back home fast. I ask for an explanation, and I don't receive any, so I just hang up the phone. I get another call immediately. This time it's my grandma. Your mum is dead. Come back. I won't delve much into what happened after, but I cried myself out while driving to the station to take the first train there was. While I was in the train, I tried to call Brian, but he didn't take the phone call, and after some tries I ended up talking with David, telling him what happened and that I won't be at work tomorrow, Monday. Now that all has been told, there's a need for a time skip. 1 month after I'm back at work, the funeral has been done, but the paperwork is still in its baby stages. People who have had to deal with this kind of paperwork regarding inheritance, taxes, payments, bureaucracy know what I'm talking about. So, in preparation for all that task and to get some much needed rest, I tell Brian I want to leave from work, as it's the law. I have the right to ask, and get it. He just asked me to please wait until things get better, since we lack personnel, and a big operation is undergoing in a month. Right now it's just me and another one besides him, as recently another buddy had been granted a transfer to another unit. I agree, but I make sure to tell him that I'll have to take days off to do paperwork in another city. He says there's no problem since I have all my days for this year, and they'll not give me trouble for that. So I ask for my leave and it gets through. My leave will start in 3 months from now. A couple of weeks later, Brian leaves the country and David is assigned as our temporary manager. This is the moment things turn south. You probably guess where this is going. There is just me and David working right now. Rarely we get some help as we have a lot of work to do, and not just in our location, but around the world. We're used to working overtime and without personnel, so it's not a problem for anyone. The problem starts when I ask for a day off. I had an appointment to sign some legal documents and retrieve others from estate, and I asked David about it. He says this week is not a good one, and next week we can try and make it happen. Okay. Next week I asked David about having a day off. He tells me he's busy and to ask him tomorrow. Next day is the same. And on to the next day, I repeat to him I need a day off, and then he goes up berating me for some work I'm supposedly not doing well, and storming out. I'm shocked. I'm just asking for a day that they have to give me by law. Fast forward. After another month I haven't done any paperwork, and when I'm asked for a permit I'm just getting responses towards delaying the permit to the end of the week to see if there's going to be work on Friday or not. For a while I can't sleep, and I'm just unable to cope with everything that's going on right now during my sleep or free time, though I still have a strong front and I try to act as if it was just fine. Then one day I just can't stand it anymore, since my deadlines for taxes and inheritance are getting really close. When someone dies in my country, there is a time for when the inheritor is able to pay taxes and present paperwork to the state to claim property. So I just get an appointment with the needed parties and say to David that I'm taking the day off. I've been waiting for months now and I can't delay it anymore. He agrees and tells me to give him the permit tomorrow to sign it. And tomorrow comes. I have the permit to be accepted for next week just for a couple of days, Friday and Monday. Guess what? I couldn't find David. And the next day, he's too busy and he'll sign it tomorrow. Now it's Thursday, in the morning of another week, and I'm standing towards David with the permit in one hand towards him, and I start again. Can you sign my permit? It's for tomorrow and Monday as we agreed upon. He takes it, reads a bit, and takes it into Mike's office. He tells me Mike has denied the permit and he can't do anything. There's a big operation coming next week on Wednesday and they need me here. Now, believe me, I'm a chill person, but I was mad. Hate was clearly coming through my eyes, but I said okay, and just left. Remember, this is the military. Even when you're being screwed, you have to be careful and cover your back. Now I understand something was going on. I don't know what it is exactly, but something's up. I started to talk with all my co-workers and try and poke information about what's going on. I make some calls, and at some point, I cross paths with Mike in the office. He starts to talk to me about why he can't give me the permit, and so I ask him what's going on. He's confrontational and says I have to do what I have to do, just bear with it or leave, this is the military. I then repeat that I've been asking for this for a long time already, and it's my right to take a permit if I have an official appointment, and if there's not an order on paper with the proper justification as to why I couldn't take these days off in my hand by the end of the day, I'll not be there tomorrow. He says we'll talk in a few hours and just leaves. I inquired a lot of things that day. Some co-workers told me stories that this is not the first time it's happened. There's been some people having to put up with even worse crap than this. David is well known for giving his job to other unqualified people, that even ended in injuries, complaints, bribes, and suing. Mike has done some nasty things to other people, but he's always been unscathed of any consequences, but those are other stories. At the end of the day, I've been given both Friday and Monday off, with some words saying how generous Mike is, and a warning about speaking directly to Mike by David. David also tells me that I'm risking to have detention and an official amonestation. Also, that I'll have to hand over justification of my appointments next week in Mike's desk, and that thanks to me, he'll have to work this Sunday instead of me. He planned to give me some work that had to be done on Sunday that doesn't belong to me either, and cancel a family trick he had planned weeks before. Oh, the irony. So now it's Monday morning, and I wake up at 8 AM to see some messages from David, and he's mad, hysterical. I get paragraph after paragraph of crap from him. He says I left a battery starter stranded on the road and found something out of place at the workshop. He doesn't find some stuff and he's fuming. He says he'd talk to me tomorrow and that I have to be prepared for consequences this time. At this point I'm not even mad. I'm exhausted. I have so many issues right now that my psyche can't handle this guy's bull anymore. I just want to start my work and leave, get this over with and get out of there. I didn't tell you, but during my leave I'm doing some exams to be promoted in the army. I've been studying hard, and when I have more time I'll study harder. This exam period is well known, since every year in my unit many other people take this exam, get promoted and go back to study or train in the academy and never come back again. It's relatively easy if you have the requirements, and if you prepare with some months beforehand. So there, everyone assumes that if you take part in their promotion exam, you pass, and they're right. So I get back to work the next day and I'm being berated over something I don't even know about, and I'm being told my attitude is bad and I need to work harder and put work at a much higher priority. I just don't understand what's happening. I don't see myself as lazy. Every other coworker would agree I put everything on the line and I'm dedicated. David ends our first meeting with, "We'll talk later. I'll discuss this with Mike." I'm somewhat now in the back of my mind thinking that something isn't right. I talk around with people and they console me a little, crap talk about Mike and David, and tell me not to worry too much and get out of there as fast as I can. Here comes Eric in my story, my friend I introduced before. He takes me to a quiet place and tells me he's overheard David and Mike talking about me in the office and how he listened to them talking about stopping my chance this year to promote in the army. I sink into myself for a few moments and then I thank him. Okay, I know their cards now. I get a huge breath of air as I start to make my plan in my head. I talk with a few people and call a friend whose father is a lawyer and has won some big cases in military law, even ruining some big shot's career in the same base before. She gives me his number and I get an appointment this afternoon. So it comes at the end of the morning and David takes me to the side and tells me that I'll be given a detention soon for 3 days or more. Then he starts rambling without me talking even one bit about how it'll be good for me and how I can get things through, and a year or more working there will go well with me, and after I can become a lieutenant or whatever anyway. He rambled how it's useful for this unit to give detention for the little things, even though in other units it would not happen since we're really strict. He gave some examples of other people getting detention and that this will make me stronger. I hear him, but I'm only listening to my heart's translation. I want you to work your ass off here to work as 3 people for 1 more year. If you're not here, then I can't slack off anymore, and I'll continue to mess with you anytime I have a chance. He thinks he's made himself clear and pats me on the back and leaves. After a meeting with my lawyer, I went to the doctor. I told him what's happening at work and left with a medical leave that same day for 2 weeks that I'll end before it expires, this the day before my work leave starts. The next day I went to work in day-to-day clothes and told David what's going on. He didn't expect it. He was mute for a while and went to talk to Mike. Mike came to talk to me and, being in a cynical tone and a smug face, asked why I wasn't in my uniform. I told him I wasn't capable of work right now and I'll be seeing the base doctor to pass on the medical certificate I already have. He's mad, but he contains himself and leaves talking to himself. I talk with my co-workers, gossip a little here and there, and leave to my house to take my stuff and go to my old home in another city. Fast forward a week and a couple of days, I go back to my workplace the day my work leave starts and say goodbye to my friends and close co-workers. Mike calls me again to his office and berates me for a while. I'll try to transcribe his discourse as accurate as possible. I don't talk much, and this is mostly a one-sided charade. You're in the army. What do you expect, huh? What are you gonna do now? You've been on medical leave for more than a week, freeloading from the state. I'm here to pay for your nice car. I have a sports car with a big engine because I'm a car guy, and he asked me to test drive it months before, and I didn't let him since he's also a drunkard at the workplace. And coincidentally, your medical leave ends when your work leave starts, right? There's so much work to do, and you're leaving all your companions stranded. When you come back, we'll have a serious talk, and if you expect a good evaluation from me, you must be dreaming after this. But well, if you don't like it, you could always leave and seek another job if you think you're too good to work here, and just don't get in the way. In my country, getting a job right now is really hard for young people. I leave that place, and a boulder is lifted from my shoulders. Now I have 3 months to organise all the things I have to do since my mother's funeral. I even cried a little in the car, since I haven't had time to cope with the loss of her, and I'm still healing. But he told me, right, I could just leave. I did everything I had to do during this time. My mother, even though she raised me alone and worked very hard, never remarried or anything like that. She just worked hard and was really valued at her company. She was making almost 6 figures at the peak of her career. This is a lot in my country. I had some good savings, as I got lucky in some business decisions years prior. Plus I inherited some property and also had other income, so anyway, I was set for life. While on leave, I chose a flight academy and started training to become an airline pilot. Now, my lawyer prepared all the paperwork for me to leave the army as Mike recommended, and as the day approached for the end of my leave, I went there again, dressed in day-to-day life. Let me tell you, the face Mike and David had when they saw me without uniform was priceless. They weren't able to understand why I wasn't going to work. It was as if they'd had a seizure, because Mike told me to sign my negative evaluation the next day at what I had agreed upon. They surely had some plans built up against me that I had just made useless. It seems like they were out for blood, as I was told by my buddies that overheard them talking. They trash talked me a lot, and David was found checking on my personal belongings in the office trying to find something we need, that no one knew what it was for or what it was. Just my guess. I don't even know. I laughed at that. I gave the papers my lawyer prepared to Mike, and believe me when I say this, when he heard the word lawyer, he went ape on his mind and peel in his face. He stared at me for a few seconds and didn't say anything else, aside from one remark, that if I wanted to leave the army, by law I can't be on leave, and that I'll have to come into work 15 days to present the papers, but in working condition and in uniform. I told him I'll discuss that with my lawyer, and we shook hands. Mike, you told me my choices and you were right. I have to leave. Guess what? He made that law up. So if I did as I was told and went to work in 15 days, he would use the military law to punish me with some reason regarding my attitude towards superiors or some bull that he could make up, forcing me to work or even face jail time. With my lawyer in tow, I just ignored his demand and presented all the things I needed to the proper parties involved, the defense ministry from the government, not Mike. Never ever heard of Mike or David directly again from then on, and they tried to contact me if I didn't show up after 15 days. And now you're thinking, what about the consequences? Well, technically till a couple of months I'm still assigned to their unit. You remember how low personnel we were and how I told you I did almost everything there, right? I knew my department wasn't going to work if Brian or I wasn't there, and they needed to fill my position ASAP. But to ask for someone to come and fill my position, they'd have to wait till I get officially out of the system, and that's about 1 or 2 months after I cease to be in the military, something that is yet to happen. So David has been having to work a lot lately, and the problems keep piling up because he's messing everything up, and the work can't be done with irresponsible and untrained personnel left. That was something I knew as much as David knew, but Mike was going to learn now. Things went so south after me leaving that the department is going to cease to exist and be absorbed by another one in the near future because of poor performance. This department was created originally by Mike, and he isn't able to stop the problems from going to the surface anymore. My case has been the talk around my unit, and I've taken the opportunity to make a file with the problems of my department and some underhanded things they've been doing all the years. I filled it and handed it over to his boss when I was asked by him about my reasons. My years working there had really made me knowledgeable about some of the blatantly illegal and dangerous things that's been going on at his command and to his knowledge. Mike's position will cease to exist, and he'll have to relocate his family to another base in another part of the country, where his house will not be paid by the state and they are scarce, and the rule, first come first serve, is in place. Knowing I have a big part in his current predicament doesn't make me sleep better at night, but I feel it's just a bit of karma paying him back. Well, Mike, I could just leave if I didn't want to be there, right? And that's just what I did. Now, I'm about to take my first solo flight as a pilot in command, and I look back at this last year and feel like it's been a decade, but I can't be happier where I am now in life. Okay, so that's all for r/MaliciousCompliance. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching.